the invisible script running your life. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. And I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to talk to you about something that runs silently beneath the surface of your entire existence, something that dictates your choices before you even realize you're making them, something that keeps you stuck in the same exhausting cycles, wondering why you can't seem to break free no matter how hard you try. I'm talking about patterns, not the decorative kind, not the ones you admire on throw pillows or Pinterest boards. I'm talking about the invisible scripts you follow without thinking, the habits you repeat on autopilot, the reactions you have before your brain catches up, the cycles you keep running until you're too tired to remember why you started running in the first place. Recently, I had the privilege of sitting down with Shalana Jones, a resilient mother, survivor, and powerful voice for healing and transformation. Shalana is someone who has walked through fire and chosen not just to survive it, but to rebuild her life on the other side with intention, hope, and radical softness. Her work is changing lives. Her story is proof that survival does not have to be the final chapter. And her insights reminded me of something I've been thinking about for a long time. When we talk about healing, we're really talking about interrupting patterns. And when we interrupt patterns, we don't just change our own lives, we change the trajectory of a bloodline. Let me say that again because it's worth repeating. When you interrupt a pattern, you change the trajectory of a bloodline. That's not hyperbole. That's not motivational fluff. That's the truth. And if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, you already know that we don't do fluff here. We do real. We do raw. We do the kind of honesty that makes you cry a little, laugh a little, and maybe text your therapist right after. So let's talk about patterns. Let's talk about what they are, why they matter, and how noticing them, naming them, and interrupting them can be the most radical act of self love you ever commit. Here's the thing about patterns, they're sneaky. They don't announce themselves. They don't walk into the room wearing a name tag that said, "Hi, I'm a toxic coping mechanism you learned when you were 7." No, patterns show up as normal. They show up as just the way things are. They show up as strength, as loyalty, as responsibility, as love. And before you know it, you've been running the same script for 20 years, wondering why you're exhausted, why you're angry, why you can't seem to rest even when you finally have the time. Patterns are the reason you say yes when you mean no. Patterns are the reason you overextend yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you. Patterns are the reason you carry everyone else's emotional baggage and then wonder why your back hurts. Patterns are the reason you've been in survival mode so long that softness feels like a foreign language. And here's the kicker, most of the patterns we're running, we didn't even choose them. We inherited them. We learned them. We absorbed them from family, from culture, from trauma, from a world that told us we had to be strong, had to be selfless, had to be everything to everyone except ourselves. But here's the good news, what repeats matters. And if what repeats matters, that means we have the power to change it. We have the power to notice it, to name it, and to interrupt it. And when we do that, we don't just heal ourselves, we heal forward, we heal backward, we heal the generations that came before us and the generations that come after. Let me tell you about Shalana Jones. Shalana is a woman who knows what it means to survive. She knows what it means to live in constant alertness, to move through the world with fear as a companion, to carry violation and trauma in her body like a second skin. And for a long time, survival was the pattern. Get up, get through, get by, repeat. But here's what Shalana learned, and here's what she shared with me. Survival doesn't have to be the final pattern. Healing is possible. Hope is possible. Softness is possible. But it requires something radical. It requires recognizing that the pattern of survival, while it may have kept you alive, is not the same thing as living. And once you recognize that, once you name it, you can start to interrupt it. Shigalana's story is a testament to the power of resilience, growth after violation, and the radical power of hope. She didn't just survive, she chose to heal. She chose to replace the pattern of fear with the pattern of hope. She chose to move from endurance to restoration. And in doing so, she became a model for what's possible when we stop accepting survival as the ceiling and start reaching for something softer, something truer, something more whole. Think about that for a moment. How many of us have been living in survival mode for so long that we've forgotten what it feels like to actually live? How many of us have normalized fear, hypervigilance, and constant alertness to the point where peace feels suspicious? How many of us have trained ourselves to expect the worst because hoping for the best felt too dangerous? That's a pattern, and it's one that can be interrupted. Now, let's talk about another pattern, the pattern of equating strength with hardness. This one hits close to home for a lot of us, especially Black women. We've been told our whole lives that we have to be strong, strong enough to carry everyone, strong enough to endure anything, strong enough to never break, never cry, never ask for help. And so we perform strength. We perform it so well that we forget it's a performance. We forget that underneath all that armor is a human being who is tired, who is hurting, who just wants to rest. But here's what I've learned, and here's what the women I've spoken to on this podcast have taught me. Softness is not weakness. Softness is power. Softness is a radical act of self love in a world that profits from your exhaustion. Softness is the refusal to let survival be your identity. Softness is the choice to care for yourself with the same discipline and intention that you've been using to care for everyone else. Choosing softness means recognizing the pattern of constant hardness and saying, I don't have to live like this anymore. It means setting boundaries without apology. It means saying no without guilt. It means resting without explanation. It means redefining power in a way that supports emotional restoration rather than depletion. And let me be clear, this is not about becoming passive. This is not about giving up. This is about reclaiming your energy, your peace, your joy. This is about refusing to let the world's expectations dictate how you show up for yourself. This is about breaking the cycle that normalizes overwork, suppression, and emotional self abandonment. I've seen this transformation happen in real time. I've watched women who spent decades carrying everyone else finally put down the weight. I've watched women who believed rest was selfish learn to embrace it as sacred. I've watched women who thought softness was a luxury realize it's a birthright. And every single time, it starts with the same thing, noticing the pattern, naming the pattern, interrupting the pattern. Now, let's talk about hope, because hope is not just a feeling, hope is a pattern, hope is a practice. Hope is a choice you make every single day, even when despair feels more familiar. Trauma creates patterns, it creates fear, it creates disconnection, it creates the belief that the future will always look like the past. And when you've been hurt, when you've been violated, when you've been let down over and over again, hope can feel like a luxury you can't afford. But here's the truth: hope is not denial. Hope is not pretending the pain didn't happen. Hope is the deliberate break from destructive cycles. Hope is the refusal to let your past dictate your future. Hope is the active practice of rebuilding a self that is not organized around pain. The women I've spoken to on this podcast, including Shalana, have shown me that reclaiming hope is one of the most powerful acts of resistance. It's the reclaiming of agency, it's the choice to believe that healing is possible, that change is possible, that you are not stuck in the pattern forever. And I want to be honest with you, this work is not easy. Interrupting a pattern that has been running your life for years, maybe decades, is hard. It's uncomfortable. It's disorienting. Because when you stop doing what you've always done, you have to figure out who you are without it. You have to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. You have to trust that something better is waiting on the other side. But here's what I know: you are capable of this, you are worthy of this, and you are not alone in this. So here's what I want you to remember: three things. Write them down, tattoo them on your heart, share them with someone who needs to hear them. Number one, what repeats matters. The same habits, reactions, and relationships often keep people stuck until they are consciously examined and changed. If you keep ending up in the same place, it's not bad luck. It's a pattern, and patterns can be interrupted. Number two, healing is not random, it is patterned. Moving from survival to softness requires recognizing what trauma trained responses look like and choosing different ones. Healing is intentional, it's disciplined. It's the practice of noticing, naming, and interrupting the cycles that no longer serve you. Number three, breaking a pattern has generational impact. When one person interrupts unhealthy cycles, the effect can extend beyond the individual into family systems and future generations. You are not just healing yourself, you are healing your lineage. You are changing the trajectory of a bloodline. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds great, LeAnne, but how do I actually do this? How do I interrupt a pattern when I've been running it my whole life? How do I choose softness when hardness is all I know? How do I reclaim hope when despair feels like home? Here's what I want you to do. This week, I want you to identify one pattern in your life, just one. It could be a habit, it could be a reaction, it could be a boundary issue, it could be the way you talk to yourself, it could be the way you show up in relationships. Just one pattern. And then I want you to take one concrete step to interrupt it. Maybe that means pausing before you react. Maybe that means asking for support instead of pretending you're fine. Maybe that means setting a boundary that protects your peace, even if it makes someone else uncomfortable. Maybe that means saying no without offering an explanation. Maybe that means resting without guilt. Just one step. That's all. Because here's the thing: interrupting a pattern doesn't require a complete life overhaul, it doesn't require perfection. It just requires awareness and intention. It requires you to notice what's happening, to name it, and to choose differently. And I want you to know something: you are not alone in this. You are not the first person to realize that the way you've been living is not sustainable. You are not the first person to feel exhausted by the weight of everyone else's expectations. You are not the first person to wonder if softness is even possible for someone like you. But you are also not the last. And that's the beauty of breaking a pattern. When you do it, you give someone else permission to do it too. You become the model, you become the proof. You become the evidence that change is possible, that healing is real, that softness is not a luxury, it's a birthright. So here's my challenge to you: notice the pattern, name the pattern, interrupt the pattern, and watch what happens. Watch how your life starts to shift. Watch how your relationships start to change. Watch how your peace starts to return. Watch how your joy starts to bloom. because you deserve softness. You deserve rest. You deserve healing. You deserve to live a life that is not organized around survival. And it starts with one pattern, one choice, one brave, beautiful, radical act of self love. This is your moment. This is your invitation. This is your permission slip to choose yourself, to honor yourself, to protect yourself, and to love yourself the way you've been loving everyone else. The pattern stops here. The healing starts now, and the trajectory of your bloodline changes today.